Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us about wanting to do something on your own as an entrepreneur that's of value, but not being constrained by the insurance and Medicare regulations. Today, you'll be meeting Liz Cornish, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who founded her business to help seniors and families find the best senior living communities for their individual needs. Welcome to the show, Liz. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Suzy. So glad to be here.
I know we're going to have a great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent, a little here, a little there, because they're challenging you in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's get this started with, if you tell us a little bit about how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and what you do in the world. Take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Suzy. So I am 58 and I started my business when I was 54. I had been a physical therapist for 35 years doing home care physical therapy, and just was not happy with the insurance companies and Medicare telling me how I needed to practice, how many visits this person needed when all they were looking at was a quick diagnosis and not the whole person. And I had also seen many people in assisted living, senior living communities that weren't really happy, felt that they were kind of sold a bill of goods and hadn't gotten the full understanding, didn't know how to go about doing it. So when I was 54, I started my business as a part-time gig. Still working as a physical therapist full time, but doing the business on the side, trying to help seniors find the best senior because I had the insights from all the years ago. And I knew seniors. So tried to put those two things together to form this business that is totally different than anything out there.
So what typically happens when a senior's trying to find where they want to live?
So without
your help.
Without my help,
like?
they're either going on Google and searching. Sometimes they'll end up calling 7 or 8 or 9 different places, or they'll get, when they do their Google search, they'll get linked into a large internet company and they'll capture their name and their email and phone number. And then the company then sprays that out to 6 or 7 or 8 different communities. And then the client will get bombarded with phone calls from the salespeople of all those over and over.
That sounds so overwhelming. It's like anything, right? The internet's amazing, but do you have the literacy to sort stuff out? And then when sales are involved, again, do you have the literacy to sort things out and to even understand what the differences are and how to ask great questions and all of that? It sounds like a lot.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I found was that the clients that I'm working with, that they didn't even know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even navigate through the correct questions to ask to find out, even on a tour, what the real story was, what the care is, because it's the salesperson's job to highlight their strengths and hide their challenges. But we try and do an open book so that we give people their strengths and the challenges of each community and let that person make an informed decision for their specific.
Wow. What is one surprising question that isn't always remembered to ask?
I think one of the things is just looking around and trying to get past the glitz and glamour and the overwhelming and looking at day to day, things that you would do day to day. There's a community that has gorgeous floor to ceiling windows, but the window cranks are on the baseboard, which is not ideal for anyone who's a senior having to bend over and potential fall risk. So,
Liz, I don't like bending over.
Exactly.
I always have this discussion with my husband. I see him, leaning over using all of, tying shoes. And I looked at him, I'm like, didn't you get the memo? Slip-ons are the way to go. After I had my first or second baby, I figured that out. I had 3, but it was just being so uncomfortable and huge. I couldn't bend over. I've been wearing slip-ons ever since.
Good for you. Good for you.
But a window crank, that's a really good idea. Yeah, that's a good point. Really good point.
Right. I think the big thing is just to look for the practical things that are going to be important to you.
I can see how that wouldn't be top of mind. It's more, like those windows. Oh, if I see windows, I get all excited about windows too. Absolutely.
Right. They're breathtaking. They're gorgeous. But if you like fresh air, how are you going to open them?
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I guess the thing that also stands out about your notes on your application is that you've been doubling your revenue every year since you started, and you were new to being an entrepreneur. And let me tell you, I don't need to tell you, and I probably don't need to tell the people listening because they're most likely entrepreneurs. But the thing is that doubling your revenue every year, even during COVID, wow.
Right.
COVID must have been a crazy time.
COVID was, and we had to spin on a dime, just, kind of just like everybody else. But one of my big components of what I am passionate about is educating people. So what we did is no one was moving in or out of the senior living communities at the time. So we went virtual and just did a boatload of educational programs. So virtual educational programming through libraries and senior centers and anywhere I could reach out and touch people and give them information to make educated decisions when the time came was how we did it. And so that allowed us to really reach a lot of people even during COVID, so that as soon as everything kind of opened back up, people started calling and started touring with us. So that kind of came back.
Wow. Yeah. Well, one of the things I really like to talk about on this podcast is this intersection about classic midlife issues, midlife challenges, and you being at this age and stage of life trying to run a business. Can you tell me a little bit about that, how that shows up for you?
Yeah, certainly. So I don't have the energy I had when I was 30 or 40. So that's a big thing is I don't have the energy that I had. So I need to be very mindful of how I'm marketing my time, how I'm allotting my time. I am someone who really wants to do as much as I can for people. And I've got to remember to pull back. And sometimes I don't do that. Even this week, I did not do that. I booked myself. I have a presentation to do tonight and a presentation to do again on Thursday. And so, 2 nights out until 9 o'clock is going to kill me this week. But I think part of it is being mindful of that. Part of it is my brain doesn't work as well. So I'm not as good at multitasking and doing multiple things. So I have to be very conscious of making sure I have my lists and making sure I'm planning my day correctly, so that things don't get missed and things don't get forgotten. I think those are the 2 big things is just I don't have the energy and just the brain, just as we age, the brain does not work as well as it did when we were 20, where you could do 15 different things and still remember them all without any notes. So I do have to make sure I take my notes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who doesn't like a good list? And thank God for sticky notes. But I guess the thing that about energy, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that because that's been something common that people are talking about, but I know everybody doesn't mean the exact same thing. So when you're noting energy, describe what you mean by that. Is it physical and mental exhaustion, or with the physical, is it mostly physical? What does energy feel like to you?
So I think it's actually that and just this and everything, spiritual, physical, mental. So taking the time physically, by 8 o'clock at night, I'm pretty much wiped out. Where, 10, 15 years ago, I could get home from work, get dinner together, go to the gym, and then, get things ready for the next day. Now that's just not going to happen. I'm physically exhausted. And then just, I think mentally and spiritually, I need to take that time to renew myself. I need to take that time to fill myself up with things that fill me. So, and to make sure that I'm staying mentally sharp and not overloading with things that I need to. When I need to just break, I need to break. I've made decisions. I don't work Very rarely do I work on the weekends. I'll take a call if it's a client on a Saturday, but Sunday my phone's off because I need to rest and recharge and get myself back both physically, mentally, and spiritually, just recharge so I can then come out and be my best for my clients.
Thank you for explaining that, because I know I really do understand that it means something different for everybody. But yeah, I find that if I sit in a certain recliner that I call my chair, I can't get through a show. There's not one show. It doesn't matter how short it is. I sit in that chair and I'm out. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because my legs are up. Like, I love a recliner. I've always loved a recliner. I don't know. It's really interesting. I'm out. Even the other night, my husband, we were watching something. I fell asleep. And then when he said, I'm going to bed, are you coming? And I'm like, yeah. I couldn't move. I think I fell asleep again.
I find that with reading too. Oh. I love to read. And now when I start reading, I don't know, 15 minutes and my eyes are getting heavy and I just can't read for the length of time, where I used to read for hours on it.
Yeah.
And be able to read through a book. I don't have that. I've gone to a lot of audio instead of, books on audio. Visually,
Me too. I just finished one that I think was 6 or 7 hours and I just paced myself, It was lovely to finish a book.
Right.
Yeah, really good. No, I know what you mean for sure. And what do you have to say about boundaries? Because I know that's another thing that comes up. You mentioned it in your application. I've heard it from a few other women. So what's that been like for you?
So setting boundaries with work is absolutely imperative. I found when I first started the business, I was taking phone calls at 8, 9 o'clock. Clients were calling on the weekends, on Sundays, and, I was taking them, and I have had to say, I am available until about 7, maybe, 7:30 at night. And then I will get back to you in the morning. So I think, setting those boundaries right up front. I tell clients we are scheduled. We do some scheduled care management of clients, but I'm not the person that you're going to be calling at 3 a.m. or 10 o'clock at night. So, I have had to really set those boundaries with my clients, but, also, it's been a change for me because I was just doing home care. So I was always out in the field. And so being home, having a home office and setting boundaries right with family as well. So making sure everybody knows, okay, these are my times. And then when I'm off, I am off.
Oh, yeah. It's like Lucy. The doctor is in, the doctor is out,
Right.
Another thing you mentioned is stepping out of your comfort zone and learning lots of new things. So what's it like for you to be a beginner?
Oh, yeah. So I always say I'm really good at what I do. I love my seniors. I know the communities inside out and really can do that all the time without any issues. What I did not know when I started my business was the business end of things.
Nobody tells you how hard it is.
No. And I'm, just when I thought, okay, we're good, we're growing, this is great. This year I had to hire an admin and I hired another senior care consultant. And again, I feel like I'm starting all over again in business because when you add the employees, it's a whole nother level of complexity with not only managing the employees, but managing the business of them and payroll and all the business forms and taxes and rules and regulations and HR regulations. And that has been the hardest part. I laughed when I started the business. I would take everything on a paper intake form with my clients, and then I had to learn how to use a CRM. What's a CRM? But I had to learn how to do all that, and even simple things like manage files and folders on the computer, right? Just how to save them so that you can go back and actually know where you put them. And somebody else can go and look at them and know where they are.
What a concept. We grew up with paper. We grew up with faxes. Like we grew up at a very different time. And I get frustrated also with my desk sometimes because I like to see things, but that's not great because there's just a lot of piles and then there's a lot of paper. And I have found some midlife women who are very cool with paperless things. And I guess most of us are moving toward it at least a little bit. But yeah, to really embrace that in your business is something quite new for many of us.
It is. It is. And I did get a business coach early on who helped me with that, but things that just I wouldn't have even known to ask. Just like my clients don't know questions to ask, for assisted living and memory care. For business, I didn't even know the questions to ask. So the business coach helped quite a bit, being able to figure things out and say, oh, I need this. Oh, I really have to do that. Measuring and testing and quantifying and all that type of thing was completely and totally.
And there's some legal stuff. I know you didn't mention it in your document, but I found some legal things that have been interesting. And yeah, it's important to know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just this morning, I got an email from the Department of Labor for unemployment tax rate. And what is this? I quickly sent that off to my payroll guy. Do you deal with this? Because I have no idea what it is. So yeah, every day is a new adventure with learning new things in the business.
It's true. It's really true. And that's the difference, I think, between being somebody our age and it being employed by somebody else. Because usually somebody who's older and wiser has accrued some experience and usually is not in a beginner role when you're employed by somebody else. Now, that's, of course, a generalization. And if you're switching careers, that may not be the case for you, but it's very common to feel bored because you're not learning a lot of new things. But as an entrepreneur, it's a completely different ballgame.
Right. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Basically, that's it. Yeah. Now, another thing that's going on with you is this child of yours. So he got a lot of nerve and moved.
He did.
What the heck?
He did.
I knew he was him.
He would never. I knew he was never staying in Connecticut. He, he did what he was supposed to do. He grew up and is an emerging adult and graduated from college and got a job in Texas and is loving life down there, living his dream, which is just fabulous.
How does that affect you? Yeah. How does it affect you?
Yeah, it's a little, it's this weird plethora of emotions, right? I am thrilled and excited for him and so proud of him. And yet I'm terrified at the same time. And is he making wise decisions? And I'm not right there. And how can I help? And does he need my help? And how to coach him? Because I think as parents, when our kids are in their early 20s, we move from kind of parenting to more coaching, right? Because he's got to make his mistakes and learn from them. But how to do that from afar.
And Liz, how to do that without their permission. That's the other thing.
Right. Right. Not to be intrusive and not to be
exactly,
anything like that, but to stay involved and to make sure that he knows that I'm there for him at any point and that family is always first. And so, yeah, I think we're striking a balance and it's I love it when he calls and just says, hey, I was just thinking of you. So, it brings joy to my heart. Would I love to have him right here so I could squeeze him tight? Yes. But it brings joy to my heart that he's doing what he was meant to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. And as a woman running a business, though, how is it affecting you there? Do you find that his whereabouts and when he's available and stuff like that is creeping into your calendaring?
It certainly is. One of the things that's very different is when I was doing home care physical therapy, he knew he could call or he could text and he could call me anytime. And pretty much I could just say, I'll be right back to my patient and take his phone call at any point. And now I can't. So, that's been a learning process for both of us. He's had to learn how to wait and kind of learn those things, but he's working full time too. So he doesn't now have all the spare time, but we certainly calendar in and say, hey, let's touch base, Sunday afternoon, or, hey, let's touch base Thursday evening, or, oh, wait, no, we can't do that because I have a presentation. And so we look at our calendars and look at what he's got going on. And we kind of make appointments along with the spur of the moment texts and things like that. But the phone calls and the FaceTimes are really kind of scheduled.
Yeah. It looks like you may have launched one.
I know. Yeah. Texas
is like from where you live. That's a move. definitely.
It is. And he's a Southern boy through and through. He's not coming back.
And how have you noticed that being an older woman, and I like to say older and wiser, but to be at this age, how is that showing up for you, being an entrepreneur?
I think more before I jump into things. So I have the years of background to pull from and to evaluate options a little bit, hopefully a little bit more wisely. As I look at a new, are we going to, a new way to market or a new hire or those types of things. I think it's helped me to make better decisions and more informed decisions through just my years of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in your application and about this multitasking and not doing it as well. And you mentioned about the energy, totally relevant. Also in here, you mentioned that that you're better in the morning. So that's also guiding the way that you calendar appointments and things.
It absolutely is. So I block out, I'm up and at work at 6:00 and I'm really good at 6:00. So a lot of the things that are difficult for me, how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. So those big tasks that are tough for me, I tend to do in the morning. So putting together presentations, writing articles, or doing the business part of business work, I tend to do in the morning, and then schedule client visits with referral sources in the late morning and early afternoon, so that I'm not doing any real critical thinking that doesn't come kind of innately to me, past 3:00. I'm pretty much winding my day down past 3:00, with the exception of some presentations that I'll do.
It also sounds like there are, distraction is a big problem for a lot of us, and trying to increase the amount of focus that we have. So it seems like what you've also done is decrease a little bit of distraction, because the early part of the day you have more control. When you start introducing people, a little later in the day, there are more things that can happen.
Right. So I have 2 hours, 6 to 8, where I'm not getting any phone calls.
Yeah.
No one's really reaching out to me at that point. So that's where I tend to get the biggest chunk of business kind of brain work done at that point.
Do you have a nice cup of coffee going? Favorite mug? All of that?
Favorite mug, cup of tea. Cup of tea, girls.
Very nice. And you also noted here that you have learned to say no and not have guilt. So what was that transition like for you?
Yes. So I think as women, we tend to say, yes, we can do it. I can do that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think I have learned that while there are many good things that I would love to do, I have to now concentrate my energy and my focus on specific things. So I have learned to say no, and no is a complete sentence, and not really feel guilty about it. Or I'll, many times I'll say, when I first started the business, I was, working full time trying to do the business, and people were saying, "Oh, let's go. Do you want to get together and let's go out for happy hour?" And, I told all my friends, listen, no, this is no for a season, but not forever. So I think we go through different seasons where specific things are no's for right now, but not forever. And as I built the business, now I can say yes. And I am going out with friends and doing those things. But the first few years, COVID didn't help any, but, I had to say, no. And even now there are a lot of pulls, right? Let's do this, do this. Hey, you should market here. You should market here. And I have to realize what my energy, time, and focus constraints are. And I've gotten pretty good at that, to say, analyze it and say, you know what? No, and not feel guilty at all.
I like that you mentioned two different types of pulls, and you mentioned a professional one where somebody's saying, "Oh, don't miss this opportunity. You should do some promotion here. It's great. You really should be in here." And also the social stuff, which of course you want to hang with your friends, but it's just too much. So right. Both of those things, and having to protect your time personally and professionally. Yeah.
Right.
And energy, time and energy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a big I'm a big family person. So, I kind of guard that family time with my husband as well as my mom. In the middle of all this, we actually sold our house and with my mom as well to help her out a little bit. So with her and then with my son, time with my son, I really guard those specific things. Very precious. They're very precious.
So moving in with your mom is interesting because if not managed well, I can see how that's the type of thing that might get in the way of you running the business the way you want. What were your thoughts about that? And how does that intersect with your business?
So, yeah, we ended up selling our house and moving in with my mom. She was needing a little bit of help. She's still completely independent and wonderful and doing her own thing. But she had been alone for 25 years. My dad passed 25 years ago. So it was just the right timing. It was the right timing to sell our house last year. And it was the right timing to move in to help her. She's got some medical things that have gone on that need a little, again, navigating the healthcare system. And, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So that's been great. It's been some of it's still a little difficult, but again, setting those boundaries and, okay, mom, I am working, even though I'm here, I am working. So these are times that, unless it's an emergency, I'm not available. So, it has to be managed. It has to be understanding on both sides. And she's been absolutely fabulous with move-in. She's so happy we're here and really accommodating to us as well.
That's amazing. And one of the things you mentioned when I asked about what are you focusing on now in business and in life? And one of the things you said about your life focus is that you really want to spend a lot of your time and attention on creating memories with family. So time together. And what you just said was you're a big family person. So what does that look like now that you have a son who lives far away and you are living with your mom? Like when you think about that, what do you really want?
So just time together. I mean, we have been blessed. This past Christmas, we packed up my mom and went down to Texas and had Christmas with my son, but all of us again together. We're really blessed that at almost 25, my son really still wants to have time with us. So going on family vacation, spending that quality time that's out and about. We love to go out and do hiking and being out in wilderness. Last year, we took an incredible trip out west and 4 national parks. Just had a great time and looking at planning another trip later in the summer, early fall. So I think it's scheduling the time to be together, scheduling trips to Texas and for him to come back up here. It's a little bit difficult with the distance, but it's being intentional about that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about the effect that it all has on your business when you are prioritizing time away from your
right? So up until now, I've always done kind of working vacations. So I have let my clients know that I am on vacation, but available, for calls if you need it. But now that I've hired a new senior care consultant, I am hopeful that our next vacation will be an actual vacation without any work, because then she can take that role of filling in and doing, kind of taking over for the week or two so that's very exciting for me.
Oh, yeah. And how long do you think it took you to go from realizing you were ready to do it to actually doing it? Because I know that hiring staff can be very challenging. You could be very nervous about that.
Right. So the admin assistant, it took me, I went a couple different ways. I hired a virtual assistant first, and it maybe because of my age, it just didn't work for me. I needed to be able to see them and talk to them and hand them things and things like that. So, but it took me about 6 months to hire the admin. And after that, I think when I hired the senior care consultant, I have hired in anticipation. So am I ready? I'm not even sure that I'm ready for her, but I'm anticipating the continued growth with the aging population and with the history of the business, that we will continue to grow, maybe not at double the income pace, but we will continue to grow. So, that one, I kind of, it was an interesting story, fate. I ran into an old colleague of mine who was looking to stop doing, again, same thing as I was initially, she's tired of the insurance dictating. And I said, would you consider? And so we went back and forth for a few months. And so she came on in March. So that's really exciting. So she has the same, again, clinician, clinical background. And so, yeah, we're going to grow and work in different territories and increase.
Wow, that is exciting. It really is, because it symbolizes so many things, like your confidence. You made a decision. You took on a hiring, like now there's responsibility. Now that you hired somebody, you also freed yourself up in alignment with your priorities. Like, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So one of the things you mentioned in the messages that you really wanted to make sure you got across in this interview, one of them was that you really love to help others solve their problems through your business and create relationships that fuel your business and you. So why is that such an important to emphasize?
Well, I think that people need to know the questions to ask, to be able to have all the information to make an educated decision. And, I named the business New Season in Life because it is a new season in the senior's life. That decision of moving from your home to community living is huge. So making that transition needs to be more than a sale. It needs to be more than a sales transaction. It needs to have someone who understands, can give the information for the client to make the best. And I think educating people on all parts of it, the strengths, the challenges, is something that I'm very, very passionate about, because they need to understand they're going to be, again, spending the rest of their years in a community. And I've seen people thrive because it's the right fit and they've just blossomed. And I've seen people kind of wither and fade because it hasn't been the right. And so, it's very important to me to make sure that seniors have all the information that they need to make this right for them. Because not every community is the right community for someone. And quite frankly, not every community, the community may not be right for someone. I just had someone that I went to see last week, and I said, the senior living community is not something that you need right now. And she looked at me, well, don't you get paid? I said, yeah, no, but you don't need it. So I think I started the business to help seniors and their families to navigate this healthcare system, become more and more complicated. That's really what my heart is out there.
It's amazing. Like, you're really making an impact. It can be so overwhelming for families when this situation comes up. Sometimes it comes up in a crisis. Sometimes the kids are just worrying so much. Like, I have a community of women who are like mostly 50 to 65, called the Women in the Middle Academy. And a lot of the women in the academy are at that brink where things are changing, decisions have to be made, and it can be so overwhelming and so stressful too, because there's a lot going on when this happens. Often there's falls and things that come up that are very difficult interpersonally. Just, it's a lot. So you're really, really doing an amazing service.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can reach me via my website at www.newseasoninlife.com.
Amazing. Liz, thank you so much. You really, this was a great interview. You took time from your busy day, and I know that it's not your favorite time of day. So I really appreciate how hard that you work to make this full transition into running your business full time, and the way you serve seniors as a senior, which is really cool, because I know a lot of times we don't think of ourselves as seniors when we're, still in our 50s, even 60s, but technically we are. I mean, we get AARP, we're seniors.
Right. Absolutely.
I totally love what you're doing. It's just so good. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Suzy. Appreciate it.
All right. That's it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to also come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.